From EPAWA Weather Consulting, headquartered in Worth Whitehall, Pennsylvania, this is Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The thoughts and opinions expressed in this video are those of the forecaster alone and may not reflect those of the staff of EPAWA Weather Consulting LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Now, without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
Good Sunday morning to another edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, January 14th. We have some snow showers and snow squalls moving through the area today. This is ahead of an Arctic front, and you can see that on radar below me. That will be a quick in and out deal with the heavier squalls, and then you're going to have some wind, some wicked wind come in as the front moves through. That will go through this afternoon. Generally following the squall line, immediately following the squall line, you'll have that for about the next hour or two after the squall line moves through. Some wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour temporarily as the kind of cold air makes its presence known. Basically, you'll know at the fronts here when the winds really start kicking up, and then it just stays breezy through the afternoon and dies off overnight tonight. So I want to get to that first. Today we have a look at the long range, of course, over the next 5 to 6 weeks and see where we're going. We have a couple systems this week that we're going to be dealing with, both Tuesday and centered around Tuesday and Friday. That will give you a little bit better timing of that today in the video, and we discussed this in last week's regular daily forecast videos as well. But I'm seeing a lot of disappointment on social media because people are like, wow, this really turned out to be a flop and we're not getting this big storm. It's wintertime, you get these smaller events too, and they all add up, and I'm not sure why we're getting so much negativity on social media channels, and my moderators are coming at me saying, hey, what do we say to these people, because we're still getting snow. But they're not getting the big storm here, and all they're doing is complaining. You probably see it on social media, Facebook and Twitter and what. Not really so much Twitter, but I just told them just to don't engage, just don't ignore it. I mean, just ignore that stuff and move on, because it's we're getting snow. It all counts. It all adds up. That's what happens in winter. You don't have to have every single storm be a big blockbuster, shut down the cities type thing for a couple days type storm, and we're not going to have that on either occasion this week, okay? But this is going to be accumulating snow. It is going to be in areas that haven't had snow or very little snow, and I do think, like for Tuesday, for example, Philadelphia sees over an inch of snow, certainly, so you're going to be, that'll be the first time that has happened in a couple years, so you're going to get some snow out of this, okay? We are going to have a map out today at 5 o'clock on weather alerts with a discussion, and of course, the text alerts will go out prior to that as your first alerts going out today. Here's what average snowfall is for the month of January, and some of these areas in the interior, and I'll show you this in a second, have gotten some this month because we had that other system that came through last week on, January 7th. So the interior did well with that. Philadelphia got 0.01 inches. They actually are not at a trace anymore, but that's barely enough to cover the ground before it went over to rain there. But you get the interior, there was several inches of snow on top of that. So the areas along I-95 and points southeast are not doing too well so far this winter, as you can see. But the point here is that you're heading into your snowiest stretch here over the next 2 months, and we're going to see some of that this week. Here's what snow is thus far. It is below average at all locations, but you do have some in here, and these numbers have gone up. So Allentown is now at 5.8. I mentioned Philadelphia at 0.1. Harrisburg had 3.3 from that system, nothing since. You might have something with the snow squall today possible, and then you're going to have some more Tuesday and again on Friday. So these numbers are all going to come up here, even in Philadelphia. Okay, Philadelphia's going to get into that too. The Scranton-Wilkes-Barre's area is at 9 inches year to date, and this is where you should be to this point this morning, okay? This is where you should be. So we are below average, but it's not incredibly below average. After these two systems, like let's take Allentown, for example, 5.8, you should be at 8.6. After these two systems this week, you're going to be pretty close to normal year to date. So by the time we're doing this Weather Weeklies video next Sunday, I might be having this as near average or maybe even a surplus, possibly. It's possible. I don't know about surplus. We'll see. And then some other areas here that are below average and haven't had much of anything, we'll get into something too. Scranton-Wilkes-Barre, again, you're going to add into this too as well in this upcoming week. Okay, so here is today's snow squalls. You can see these on radar right now. You don't really need a model to show you this, but this model did pretty well yesterday depicting that. This morning it was showing very little, but it's not right, obviously, because you can see the current radar and see where the snow squalls are. So it's doing a pretty good job of where they are. If you get caught in one of these, it's going to be some blinding snow for about 15-20 minutes. It comes down like crazy, 1 inch plus per hour rates. Some windy conditions with a squall. So just pull over to the side of the road if you are caught in one of these until it passes, especially if you're on the interstate, because we have a lot of issues on the interstates, especially because people are going faster and you can't see the snow squall coming from a great distance, and then you just all of a sudden it hits, and then there's people stopping in front of you. You didn't see it because you're going too fast. Okay, so take it easy today until these move through. Again, this is with the Arctic front. It's going to make its presence felt once it moves through. As soon as it comes through, you're going to know it because the wind's going to pick up, and it's going to get quite cold here for the next week or so. Here is the current El Nino situation. With not much change from last week. We're generally warmest in the 3.4 and Niño 3 regions, which is the central part of the Niño regions there, and then on the outside, Niño 4 and Niño 1 and 2 are lower than the middle two regions. So that hasn't been much change, and we're expecting this to continue to slowly decline over the next couple of months. It might get close to moderate territory, but right now it's a strong El Nino. Might get close to moderate territory once we get toward March or the end of winter, but by that time it doesn't really help us too much as far as snowfall is concerned, because then you're kind of transitioning into spring, right? You're getting close to transitioning into spring. Now, we have sudden stratospheric warming that is occurring over the polar regions over the next couple days, and you can see that here. There's actually a split vortex that results from this. Okay, this is going to set us up for blocking over Greenland. Okay, at least temporarily. That's going to get us a couple chances of snow this week. It's not going to be big blockbuster storms. It doesn't always work like that, and it depends on the progression of the NAO. But we are going to get something this week out of this. Okay, and what that is we have a if we have a colder stratosphere where the air is locked near the polar regions, it can't really escape down to the mid-latitudes where we live, so you got a milder pattern. But right now it is a less cold stratosphere, as you can see by this warming event over those same polar regions, which is actually splitting the vortex and allowing cold air to displace further south. So we're seeing that over the next week or so. We're going to see a couple shots of that pretty chilly air mass, and it's going to be pretty cold on several days this week, especially most notably on Wednesday in the wake of Tuesday's system, and again Saturday in the wake of Friday's system. Okay, they're going to be really cold. Temperatures not getting out of the lower to middle 20s. I mean, it's going to be pretty cold, right? And breezy to boot. So we do have, this was a result of a stratospheric warming event that happened last week. Okay, we have another such event that's going to be taking place, and that is going to be just after mid-month. As you can see here, here's that dip right here. Another, oh, I got the wrong color. Darn it. I don't know why it always does this to me. Here we go. There's in black. You can see this dip right here where it gets very close to a zonal wind reversal. Very close. I don't know if it's going to completely do it. And this is not going to help until we get to the very end of January and then into February. So this will give us another really cold week, very similar to what we have now, somewhere in that period from very late in the month in January into through at least the first week of February, maybe a little bit longer depending on how strong this gets, because these can last sometimes. If you have a full total wind reversal, and by that I mean instead of just going down to see the zero line right here, this is the zero line. If you have a total wind reversal, it'll actually dip below here, right, and then it goes back up. If you have a dip below, those can last for a long period of time, not short-lived like we saw from the one we had last week that's now setting up this week ahead, right? This one is going to set up at least late January and the first week of February. Might be a little bit longer than that if it gets, depending how deep this gets. If you have a total wind reversal, these can last 30 to 45 days and set you up for the entire month of February regardless. And this is all happening when the Matt and Julian oscillation is going to be going through the maritime continent, and these are warmer phases, okay? So is phase 6. 7 is kind of warmer-ish, but it's kind of a transition period. But you see eventually, as we get into as we get late in the month and then into early February, it's heading toward phase 8. So if the stratospheric warming doesn't help for very long in February, you will start getting into more favorable phases in the second half of February. That's going to get you, without any stratospheric warming help, will still get you into the colder temperatures and a snowier pattern. So if we get to phase 8, this is kind of like the mecca of snowfall, and we're eventually getting there. The European model is doing the same thing, heading it towards there. It runs out of room here, but the eventuality is that it gets into 8 as well, but that would be toward the middle of February. So we could be dealing with a pretty snowy February if this all works out this way, but it's still kind of early to really pinpoint any storm signals beyond what we have this week, because once we get past this week, as you see the temperature periods, we have this really cold shot coming in here in waves. 1, and then it's 2 behind Friday's system, right? That lasts for a little bit, and then you have a warming trend here toward the end of, or during the fourth full week of the month of January, right? And then at the very end of that period, you're going to see it relax. And that's because you're getting into the effects of the second stratospheric warming will start coming to play, which is right here. This kicks out, and we start trending cooler toward the very end of that period. So if you look at our long-range table that I started off with here, we do have that slightly above average period between the 24th and 29th, okay? We're going to be below average, obviously, the entire third week of the month. That's this week coming up, right? And then we have a transition the 22nd, 23rd-ish, and then you have this slightly above average period that goes to about the 29th. Then we go to another deep cold shot. The reason it's limited is because of the second stratospheric changes that I just spoke about. These right here. This is going to make this time limited. It's not going to last forever. So it's just like consider like a January thaw type thing. We have these every year typically. Some last longer than others. This one's going to be time limited because of the stratospheric changes that I spoke about, okay? And it's pretty, now this is only a couple days from now. We know this is happening, right? This isn't something like we're guessing and say, well, maybe it might not happen. It is going to happen. I mean, look at all these are 50 all the different ensemble members. See how these get out here and they get all crazy and goofy? The further out in time, they're less reliable, but when you're talking about this happening in a couple days from now, look how solid this line is. I mean, they're all doing the same thing. So it's not like it's a guessing game at this point. It is going to happen. So we know that period, even though it's going to be a moderation period, is going to be time limited, okay? So, and then when we look at the 500 millibar chart, here's that first system Tuesday, right? Then we have another one Friday. And then you have that warmer period right here. But then at the very end of this period, you can see that going away. And now we get back to colder at the very end of this period. So it is going to happen. All right. As far as the blocking, I hear a lot of people talking about the blocking and why isn't the blocking helping for to make it as a big storm. This is not an established NAO, negative NAO that's going to last for. It's there now, but it moves out pretty quick. So it's not going to be sticking around very long. It just was a temporary warming over the Greenland NAO region, so that is not, since it's progressive, it's not moving it's not sticking around for days and days and days. That can really amp up these storms. I think you're going to be dealing with similar systems this week. One, of course, Tuesday, centered around Tuesday, Monday night, Tuesday, and then another one late Thursday night and Friday is the second one. So here's a look at the system on coming in Monday night. And this is coming in during the evening in our southern areas. It's going to spread northward. You got periods of snow that are going to continue to occur through the entire event when you get by I-78 and points north. But you will have snow initially in Philadelphia and parts of Jersey and everything else. Then you're going to have this lull period here, and in that period you could have a little bit of like sleet mixed in and maybe even some rain toward the shore points after starting off with snow. As you can see that here. Once you get in that lull and invite some warm air, I'll stop this, and invite some warm air as that low pressure passes by in our southeastern areas. You get a little bit of southeasterly wind. It turns it over to some very light rain showers, and that's it. But you see the interior areas are continuing as snow. So for this event in particular, we are looking at, if I'm going to draw a line for you here, I think we're dealing with a solid 2 to 4 inches out of this, okay? And that is not a huge storm, but it still counts, okay? It's still snow. It's still disruptive. It's still something we have to create a map for, something we have to send alerts for. And it's not just going to be the interior they're going to get that, although they have the best chance to get closer to the 4 up here. You're still going to get, this is coming in overnight. So I think if you draw a line like this, which is going to include Philadelphia, by the way, up here like this, and northwest of that line, it is 2 to 4 inches of snow. It might be closer to 2 in Philadelphia. It might be closer to 4 in places up north like Wilkes-Barre, like Allentown, like Selinsgrove, like Harrisburg, though you might be closer to the 4 there, or 3 to 4, something, okay? But I think that you're going to be generally in that. Down here, you're looking at 1 to 2, most likely, and then a changeover, okay? Or a coding to 2 as you get down close. We'll have a map today. I have to look at some more things, but I think that's generally the idea of what we're looking for today. And this is Monday night into Tuesday morning, so I move this forward. It's going to loop all the way from the beginning again. But you can see the snow coming through overnight, overspreading, and then heading northward. So this is Tuesday morning here. You still got snow going on, so there could be some issues with school closings or delays up here. But this ends around noon or very shortly thereafter, tapers to a few leftover snow showers into early afternoon, and then it's done, okay? Here it is. There's noon, early afternoon. It's done here in northern New Jersey. Okay, so that's our system coming in Tuesday. Again, we're going to have information out on that system publicly and privately through text alerts, Obviously, we update the forum on stuff like that first, too. We'll have a snow map today at 5 o'clock discussing this particular event with a full discussion on weather alerts, okay? And then behind this is January 19th. This is Friday. Late Thursday night and Friday, you have another wave coming through with a very similar snow evolution, okay? So you're going to have a very similar storm on Friday, and it might do the same thing. You might get 1 to 3, 2 to 4, 3 to 5, right? And this is what we're dealing with this particular system. This is not going to be something that suddenly blows up and gives you a major snowstorm. Doesn't look like it. Looks like a very same progressive thing because we're looking at the upper air pattern. It's almost the same. Here's the first one, right? Here's the second one, right? It might have a little more dig to it, the second one, so we'll keep an eye on it. But right now, I don't see this being a big storm either. I think it's going to be very similar to what we're going to be experiencing Monday night into Tuesday. That's what I think right now. We'll see. We'll follow that throughout the week and see where we're going. As far as winter storm signals, a lot of moaning and groaning on Friday when I did the long-range outlook, and people were saying, well, where's the winter storm signals? Well, we have 2 of them, okay? They're just moved from winter storm signal category to actual storm. I didn't list this period in here. I did have the snow listed in here. This is our snow squalls today, right, in this column. This is the storm Monday night into Tuesday, and this is the one on Thursday night and Friday. Those are those 3 storms. So those, I didn't list this period here because it was still uncertainty on Friday at the time, and I don't want to put that as a signal because it was like an actual storm. For one, it was within range. It's in our 7-day forecast window, so that is a duplicate basically of this first system. It might be a little bit higher, it's possible, but we'll see. But you see there's a long gap in here between here and here of nothing. This is a time scale from left to right, so this is all time as you go this way. So this is today, this is Monday night into Tuesday, this is Thursday night and Friday. Long gap in here where you have that milder period. We're not getting any snow. We get the tail end of the month and early February. Beyond this point, we start getting into some snow chances again. And I think once you get into February, we're going to be okay. Here's the temperature periods going from the end of this month where we have, starting us off here with the warmer period, that last 4th week of January. You head into February, and this changes. Look at that. There's February. You get cold in the first week or so of the month from the stratospheric changes. Still slightly below after that point, and then it gets cold again for much of the second half as the MJO phases become more favorable, and that's when we're moving out in here. We're getting into phase 8, so you won't need any stratospheric help at that point if this is correct. Again, this is not a guarantee. This is model created as well. So if we get over to phase 8, you'd even phase this part of phase 7 in February it's more transitional. You get snow in that period as well. But once we get into February, I think we are still primed for additional snowfall, and I don't see why we can't be above average that month. Even if we're not getting a tremendous amount of snow, the point is the vast majority of that will fall in the form of snow rather than rain. So we can get to above average levels. And just as a reminder, here's what we have for February. So if you have this, I don't see why you can't get these kind of numbers here in February. Or above that. So if you're not doing so well so far, I've been saying be patient for a while, and it seems like everybody keeps saying, well, we're kicking the can down the road. We're not kicking the can down the road. We're getting snow this week. It just might not be what you want, and every storm doesn't have to be a Godzilla storm, okay? These add up, and it counts, okay? By this time next week, places like Allentown here, for example, might be average or near or slightly above average at that point in terms of snowfall after these next 2 storms. It won't be hard. It's not like we're that far behind. Now, if you're in Philadelphia, you are pretty far behind here. You're about 6 inches, almost 6 inches behind. Can you get that over the next 2 storms in total? Possible. Probably not quite that much, but we'll see. We'll see what Friday does. It's very possible. We'll see what happens. But I wouldn't get fret just yet. I mean, this still counts. It doesn't have to be, a Godzilla storm that paralyzes cities for days on end and you can't move and there's 2 feet plus of snow and wind drifts and all that stuff. Will we get something like that? It's possible. I think it's more likely in February you're going to see that if you do, okay? And it's not a guarantee. This might end up being pretty close to average by the time we're all done here. And you might not have a big Godzilla storm. You might have a 12-inch event or something in there, maybe not 24. We'll see. This is too far out to really project at that point. I just know that it looks like it's a snowier pattern in February overall. It could be a bunch of minor events that add up, too. I don't know that yet. We'll see. So there's time for that. We'll continue to look at that in the next subsequent videos that we have going forward. We still have several at least over 2 months to go yet here in winter. So in summary, we're turning sharply colder this week with different chances for accumulating snowfall that are going to be centered around Monday night and Tuesday, or at least the first half of Tuesday. And then again, late Thursday night and Friday is the second one. We'll follow that second one even more with even more scrutiny in the daily forecast videos that I do. Okay. January thaw and ridging period is expected during week 4 of the month, but it is time limited because of the reasons I mentioned. That stratospheric warming that is going to be occurring again just past mid-month is going to set us up for limiting this time frame. Even though we're going through the warmer periods of the Manazoid oscillation, it doesn't matter if there's stratospheric changes that will trump the MJO. So these periods that you go to, I forgot to say that. You're going through these warm phases here. Typically, you're torching. But because of the stratospheric changes, you do only temporarily, right? And then after that point, the stratospheric changes help, and then it flips everything. It doesn't matter where the MJO is. And the point where it comes in is right in here when it's in phase 5, phase 6. And at that point, you should be warm, but it's not going to be, okay? And it's because the stratospheric change trumps the MJO. February turns colder than average with snow chances returning. And then again, a more favorable MJO is projected once we get into maybe like the second week of February. That'll set us up for the next couple of weeks beyond that, as long as it does reach phase 8. So that's something that's still a wild card. We'll see. This isn't something that it doesn't look like winter's just going to go away and die off. And I don't see February turning milder. I know there's a lot of people saying that. I just don't. Mostly people on social media, they're just doubtful. I get it. I get you haven't had a lot of snow, and it's I want to see it to believe it type thing. But I've been saying the same thing here for months. This isn't new information. Okay, if you follow these week to week, you're not getting any hype over here. There's a reason I don't do seasonal forecasts, because a lot of these seasonal forecasts are like, is this going to work out? I'm just doing this in a 5 to 6 week limited time frame, and that's it, because that's the best we can do. And I do see chances going forward, but getting snow to project in a favorable period and actual snow falling are two different things. So we'll continue to follow that week to week, and I'll let you know what's going on as we go forward. I'm EPAWA meteorologist Bobby Marchers. That is this edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, January 14th. We'll see you again next week, same time, same station.